Is murder objectively wrong? Or is that just your subjective opinion? Seriously, think about that for a second. If someone tells you stealing is bad, are they stating a hard fact about the universe? Or are they really just sharing their personal distaste for it? Kind of like saying, I don't like broccoli. This isn't just some late-night dorm room debate. How you answer this completely changes how we build laws, how we treat each other, and literally how we understand reality itself. We're talking about meta-ethics today, the very foundations of morality. We're going to strip away the everyday arguments and look right at the absolute bedrock of human values. By the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly what meta-ethics is, we'll explore moral realism, and you'll discover the foundational origins of human values. You'll have the frameworks you need to tackle the absolute biggest ethical dilemmas out there. So, let's start with a clear definition. Meta-ethics is the study of moral reasoning. While regular, everyday ethics asks, should I tell a lie? Meta-ethics goes a whole level deeper. It asks, what does the word good even mean? And where do these moral values actually originate? It is the foundational level of inquiry beneath every single ethical choice we make. It's like studying the code of a software program, instead of just arguing about whether the game is fun to play. Now that we've got the basic idea down, let's move to a slightly more technical term you'll encounter, the ontology of value. Let's break that down. Ontology simply means the study of, and onto means being. So we are studying the literal being of values. We're asking, what actually is a value? Is it a physical fact of reality? Is it purely a subjective belief floating around in your head? Or is it just a fleeting emotional reaction? Let's pause right here for a second, because wait, this is super important. Do moral values exist out there in reality, just waiting to be discovered like physics or math? Or are they entirely constructed in our own minds? How you answer this question literally splits the entire philosophical world right down the middle. And this brilliantly illustrates that split. On one side, we have moral realism. Realists argue that ethical values have an objective basis in reality. To them, saying harming an innocent person is wrong is a true statement about the physical world, period. On the other side, we have anti-realism. Anti-realists argue that values aren't based on objective facts at all. Instead, they rely entirely on our subjective desires, our cultures, and our personal beliefs. Let's make this a bit easier with an analogy. A common mistake people make is thinking that just because we constantly disagree on morality, it must automatically be subjective. But think about the heliocentric debate in astronomy. Hundreds of years ago, people bitterly disagreed about whether the sun revolved around the Earth or the Earth revolved around the sun. But that massive disagreement didn't mean the nature of space was just a subjective opinion, right? There was an objective truth. We just had to do the hard work of discovering it. Well, moral realists argue the exact same thing about ethics. Just because there's a debate doesn't mean it's subjective. Contemporary philosopher Michelle Moody Adams provides a really fascinating perspective on this with her concept of cautious optimism. She acknowledges that irresolvable moral disagreements are just an unavoidable feature of moral experience. It's just part of being human. But crucially, she argues that these deep cultural disagreements shouldn't automatically push us into anti-realism or moral skepticism. We can absolutely still strive for objective moral truths, even when the debate gets super messy. So if we're looking for this objective truth, where do we actually find it? Historically, a lot of people have looked to the divine. But here's a classic question that often pops up for students. If God commands what is good, what happens if God commands something terrible? Does it automatically become good? Before we tackle that dilemma directly, let's look at how religious frameworks justify moral knowledge in the first place. The medieval philosopher Augustine tackled this by blurring the line between faith and knowledge. Think about the concept of adoption. If you aren't adopted, you firmly know who your parents are. You claim it as an absolute fact. Yet you can't actually remember your own birth. You take that knowledge on faith, based entirely on trust and authority. Augustine argues that our faith in divine moral laws operates the exact same way. It's foundational knowledge built on an ultimate authority. But this builds into one of the most famous problems in all of philosophy, Plato's Euthyphro problem. Follow the logic here. Is something good simply because God commands it? Because if so, morality is completely arbitrary. God could command us to be cruel, and cruelty would suddenly be good. Or does God command it because it is already good? If that's the case, then goodness sits above God, meaning there's a moral authority higher than the divine. It's a massive puzzle for divine command theory. So if divine foundations present a bit of a puzzle, where else can we look? Quick check-in here. Can we discover what is good just by observing the natural world around us? Let's explore that. Thomas Aquinas created a structured hierarchy of laws to answer this. It flows from the top down. You have eternal laws that govern the whole universe, which filter down into natural laws governing the physical world, which then inform human laws in society. And finally, divine laws come directly from revelation. The absolute crucial point for Aquinas here is that human laws must align with objective natural law. If a human law violates natural law, Aquinas argued it isn't even a law at all, it's just a perversion of it. So much for that parking ticket, right? This brings us straight into ethical naturalism. The definition here is key. This is the theory that moral values are based entirely on natural facts about the world. It argues that performing good actions actually fulfills human nature, or our telos, which basically means our purpose. Under this view, goodness isn't some magical, floating concept. It's factually tied to our biological and natural reality. Let's connect this to real life with a brilliant analogy from the 20th century philosopher Philippa Foot. You can know what is good for a duck just by studying its nature. It's an aquatic bird, so a habitat with water is factually good for it. It helps the duck flourish. Now apply that to humans. We are social primates who evolved to survive through cooperation. Therefore, actions that promote care and cooperation are factually good for us because they help humans flourish. Goodness is directly tied to our vital processes. Now, what if you just don't buy into natural law or divine commands? What if morality doesn't come from nature or God at all, but strictly from human logic or our own internal feelings? This brings us to our final major category of foundations. Enter Enlightenment philosopher Immanuel Kant. Kant wanted to ground morality purely in rationality, so he developed what he called the categorical imperative. The famous definition states, "Act only according to that maxim whereby you can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law." Okay, I know that might sound a bit dense, but it's basically the ultimate logic test for any human action. Let's make this easier with a real-life example. Say you want to lie to get out of trouble. Apply Kant's rule. What if everyone lied whenever they wanted to? If lying became a universal law, nobody would ever believe anything anyone said. The very concept of truth and lies would completely collapse. Therefore, lying is logically self-defeating. And for Kant, that logical failure proves that lying is objectively immoral. No God or biology required, just pure, relentless reason. But, maybe cold logic isn't the whole picture. Some philosophers argue the foundation is right here, inside the self. The ancient Chinese philosopher Mencius argued that human compassion and empathy are the true bedrock of ethics. More recently, American philosopher Nell Noddings developed feminist care ethics, arguing that morality is built fundamentally out of the feminine experience of caregiving and the deep feelings we have for the people in our lives. In these views, our internal psychology and empathy form the objective foundation of how we ought to treat each other. Before we finish up, let's summarize the key points. We've explored metaethics by looking at God, at nature, at reason, and at the self as potential foundations for moral values. So I'm going to turn the question back to you. Based on these frameworks, do you think there are objective sources of moral knowledge? Answering that metaethical question is exactly what dictates how you will act in the real world. In our next explainer, we're going to take these foundations and step up to the next level, normative moral theory. We'll explore how to take these deep concepts and actually apply them to everyday ethical decisions.